Hey, Cyber Warrior, welcome back. We're rushing to build an autonomous world on a foundation we don't fully control. As enterprises race to deploy AI agents with real-world agency, traditional cybersecurity is proving completely unequipped for the threat landscape. Securing the AI pipeline, often conceptualized as the agent development lifecycle, requires shifting from static security to a continuous DevSecOps approach. I'm Dennis Avatar, and Dennis Actual is happy to see you. Securing the AI pipeline, often conceptualized as the agent development lifecycle, requires shifting from static security to a continuous DevSecOps approach to address a multitude of complex vulnerabilities. Organizations must protect their AI systems across several critical phases, managing risks related to data, models, autonomous usage, and infrastructure. The integrity of an AI system is fundamentally tied to the quality of its training data. Using unverified or low-quality data sources can lead to self-inflicted wounds, causing the model to produce biased, inaccurate, or harmful outcomes. A prominent security threat in this phase is data poisoning, where attackers intentionally corrupt the training corpus to manipulate the model's future behavior. Furthermore, organizations face significant intellectual property and compliance risks if models are trained on copyrighted materials without authorization, or if models inadvertently leak sensitive corporate IP. Because building AI models from scratch is cost-prohibitive and time-consuming, most enterprises rely on importing pre-built models from open-source repositories such as Hugging Face. These models often contain billions of parameters, making manual security inspections practically impossible. Consequently, organizations face immense third-party supply chain risks, as they may unknowingly import models that are embedded with malware, contain undocumented vulnerabilities, or have poisoned weights. Ensuring secure model lineage, tracking who touched the model, verifying its authenticity, and confirming it is not an illicit copy is critical to securing this stage of the pipeline. The integration of AI coding assistance has vastly accelerated software development, allowing developers to generate functions and infrastructure configurations in seconds. However, this speed means that insecure coding patterns, vulnerable dependencies, and misconfigurations can rapidly accumulate in the codebase. Because developers are generating more code than they can deeply understand, and iteration outpaces traditional manual review cycles, these hidden risks often bypass conventional security gates and surface later as production outages or severe security incidents. A major issue during the deployment phase is shadow AI, which occurs when employees deploy unauthorized or unknown AI tools and models within the enterprise. Because security teams cannot protect assets they cannot see, shadow AI introduces massive unmonitored vectors for data leakage and privacy violations. Securing the pipeline requires deploying agentless discovery tools to identify and catalog these unsanctioned instances across fragmented hybrid cloud environments. As AI systems evolve into autonomous agents capable of interacting with external tools and databases, they must be treated as highly privileged non-human identities. A significant risk arises if agents are granted superagency or broad persistent permissions. If hijacked, an overprivileged agent acts as an attack amplifier, capable of executing malicious actions at machine speed before human intervention is possible. Securing agentic identities requires strict adherence to the principle of least privilege, issuing unique credentials for each agent, securely storing these keys in credential vaults, and enforcing dynamic, just-in-time access with short-lived ephemeral sessions. Everything I've told you so far, poisoned data, sketchy imported models, shadow deployments nobody signed off on, those are bad days. What I'm about to tell you next is the difference between a bad day and a bad year. Because once an AI system stops just answering questions and starts acting, touching tools, touching databases, making calls on its own, it stops being software. It becomes an identity. A non-human identity with its own credentials and its own access. And if that identity is overprivileged, If it's been handed super agency, broad standing permissions just in case, then hijacking it doesn't just cause a mistake. It creates what researchers call an attack amplifier. Once in production, the AI pipeline faces continuous active threats. The most prominent attack vector against generative AI models is prompt injection, where attackers use direct or indirect or zero-click prompts to socially engineer the model, overriding its core instructions to execute malicious actions. To mitigate this, organizations must deploy bidirectional AI firewalls or gateways to inspect incoming prompts for injection attempts and redact outgoing responses to prevent sensitive data leakage. Additionally, operational models are susceptible to both model drift, where outputs deteriorate in accuracy over time, and configuration drift from unexpected systemic parameter changes. This necessitates the deployment of continuous AI security posture management and active threat hunting to assess vulnerabilities, detect deviations, and correct misconfigurations. So that's the pipeline data, models, deployment, identity, and the runtime threats waiting on the other side of it all. If your team has ever debated whether an agent's permissions are actually least privilege or just least privilege on paper, tell Dennis Actual about it in the comments. He reads everyone and edits every script based on what you ask for. Next time, we're picking up right where identity leaves off prompt injection, model drift, and the tools built to catch both before they catch you. I do hope this has been helpful. Until next time, keep safe and keep your agents on a short leash.